multiple articles, TV, radio, newspaper that come out for months before we even get interviewed. And that's a shame, because if you were going to do investigative journalism, you'd want to get both sides of the stories and dig deeper and just see what people's real motives were. I find that a little disturbing. I'm kind of ashamed that they're just trying to steer the narrative so that even though they have a very weak argument, it seems like it has some substance behind it. Look at my family's track record. It's not easy to be around for 152 years. I've also been occasionally blessed to meet people like you who are actually interested in the story and want to tell it, and actually interviewed me in a way that was really fair and wanted to know the truth. They actually told me they were hypocrites, and I mistakenly audio recorded it, and then I got the threat to get sued. So I was threatened.
What's really going on behind the biggest topic of controversy in the Gallatin Gateway community? Will the activism of the Gateway Conservation Alliance members be exposed for their uninformed criticism? Bayard, a humble fifth-generation rancher who owns and operates his family's highly sought-after Black Ranch, consisting of more than 2,000 total acres of agriculture, forest, riverbed, and cattle grazing lands, will reveal the quiet complexities of land reclamation, and will answer the GCA's concerns about a proposed gravel pit intended to rehabilitate the 129 acres along the upper bench of the Black Ranch on Interstate 191, located just before the bend into the mouth of the Gallatin Canyon.
Thank you so much for bringing me out to the ranch and letting me come visit your land.
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to hear a little bit more about your story. Now, we have a lot of questions from the community about the gravel pit that is proposed to go in on your ranch. And first, I want to hear a little bit about you and give us some context.
My name is Bayard Black. I'm a rancher, fifth generation here in Gallatin Gateway, Montana. My family has lived here for about 152 years now. I also own a couple other businesses. I do design, I do photography, I do some clothing. I'm a father of 4. A husband to a beautiful special ed teacher. I did a liver transplant in 2008. The man that got part of my liver actually is alive and well. He became a Christian years later. That was an incredible experience. I delivered my son in a parking lot. That's another big one. I took over the ranch in 2000, and my father called me out of the blue, said, "Hey, cows are coming in and I'm at the emergency room. Can you help?" I laid down all my business, and after a couple months, I was in love. I scaled back on my design company, and I started focusing on the ranch.
The ranch is spread along the Gallatin River here and spans up to the highway, all the way to the mouth of the Gallatin Canyon and the upper ranch. Can you tell me what is in production and what the general operations consist of?
Down on the lower place, we have about 140 acres that's dedicated to crop rotation farming. So that's been in rotation for about 40 years. Alfalfa, barley, and wheat, as well grazing pasture. We only do about 100 cattle on this lower place. It's not a significant size piece of property, and that seems to sustain the cattle. On the upper place, most of that is grazing cattle. That's a much more substantial piece of land. That's about 95% of our acreage up there. We do things like selective logging. A father and a son come together and they go take out specific trees to make the forest stronger. We do have a rock quarry that has landscape rocks in it, but we haven't really pursued that much. We do a hunting and fishing and recreational lease project called Land Trust, where people rent access, and that's been a really great partnership. It's been bringing in some money on the side, which is always needed on a farm.
What does the ranch mean to your family, and how is that going to be relevant for your future generations?
As a family, we feel blessed to be in this situation. This is not something that today I could go out and purchase because property values have gone up so much. been handed down this property. My brother and I have from prior generations who have worked tirelessly. They passed down this legacy, so it's meaningful for us to continue to give our kids the same opportunities that we've had and maybe even better opportunities. The land is a lifestyle. It's become part of our identity as a family. We're down here all the time together. We go out on the beach and pick up rocks. We've had the most memorable experiences together here, and we appreciate this land so much. What a blessing it is. We're just taking care of it for a while God has it in our hands. Many years from now, I'll be gone and it will still be here. I'm just grateful to have it, and I love how my family has been able to benefit.
What is the gravel pit?
So the gravel pit consists of 129 acres. That farm uses chemicals like herbicides, pesticides, Roundup Ready wheat. And over the years, it's accumulated to where the soil is not sufficient in nutrients. The biodiversity is gone, and it's not a healthy environment. TMC approached us to do a gravel pit. And originally it was on our upper ranch that they proposed. I wasn't as fond of that idea because that land is pristine, it's biologically diverse, it's a strong ecosystem. Over time, then they proposed to do it on that farm field here. I thought that would be a great idea to reclaim the property. We're working with TMC. They have been an incredible partner. They've addressed issues and concerns, and they have an incredible record of reclamation. The gravel pit will provide us with the opportunity to make investments back into the land that will be meaningful 100, 200 years from now.
Y'all have had several generous offers for purchase, and y'all are interested in selling the ranch.
If I sold the ranch tomorrow, I could have generational wealth. I could not work another day in my life, and maybe my kids wouldn't have to either, but I'd be giving up on what makes this so special. I'd probably just buy another ranch and do what I'm doing now. This lifestyle out in the wild, being out doing things with the kids, working together as a family, enjoying this property, it's not about a money amount. You could not put a price on that.
What do you find is most challenging when it comes to keeping the ranch in your family?
The most difficult thing is inflation. In the last 6 years, parts for machinery, fence posts, fuel, wire, you name it. Everything has increased in cost by 50%. It's insanity how much it's gone up. And so just trying to keep up with those costs is very difficult. Keeping food on the table for 4 kids, everything's more expensive now. In addition to the rising property taxes, those property taxes put a lot of strain on us, even though it might not seem like a lot of money to some people. When you're always between the red and the black somewhere and you have a new expense that's added on, it definitely makes us feel like we're almost being pushed out. The two main things are the inflation and the property tax increases.
When did y'all start getting criticism about the gravel pit?
The first time I had heard kind of some negative press was watching a video by a neighbor. He talked about how the gravel pit was going to hurt the environment, was going to cause health concerns. He was worried it was going to ruin the area. Ironically, that neighbor ended up being someone who had reclaimed a gravel pit on his own property.
Wow.
It's beautiful. And that kind of hurt because he actually had TMC, or at that time they were signed, the same mining company, do the gravel pit there. And to hear him come out against something that he had done, it was the first punch on a long number of attacks. At that point, I knew we were into something a little deeper. It was going to be more of a challenge than what I got. I started meeting with some neighbors and talking to them about the pit, and the meetings went really well. They gave me great input. They had valid concerns. I really appreciated the time. A lot of them were really welcoming and kind. And then some time would go by and I'd see an article in the Chronicle or a video online in BC, Montana, and they'd be talking about why would anybody do this and how terrible the gravel pit was going to be. what terrible neighbors we are. So that was the second blow. At that point, I realized there had been a group created called the Gateway Conservation Alliance. I would go into these meetings, and it would be 50 people that wanted to throw tomatoes at me, and I would just go talk. And they would give me the opportunity to talk. A lot of times people would call me a liar and say I was an idiot. I would just have to bite my tongue and try to communicate the vision that we had to them. No matter what I communicated to them to address any kind of mitigation issues, it didn't matter. Those group leaders had filled everyone's minds with only the worst case scenario. I understand not wanting a gravel pit right next to you. What they don't understand, though, is I'm doing this because I want to leave a better legacy for my family in the future, but I also want to leave a better legacy for this community. I want to transform land that's not biodiverse, that's dead essentially, into something beautiful. These activists are very loud. They know how to get in touch with people. Even though they're a small group, their voices are amplified. We get multiple articles, TV, radio, newspaper that come out for months before we even get interviewed. And that's a shame, because if you were going to do investigative journalism, you'd want to get both sides of the stories and dig deeper and just see what people's real motives were. I find that a little disturbing. I'm kind of ashamed. But again, I've also been occasionally blessed to meet people like you who are actually interested in the story and want to tell it. And I've been blessed to meet reporters that, even though their publication may have been against it, they actually interviewed me in a way that was really fair and they wanted to know the truth. What I would ask of them is, give me a chance. See what I do. Look at my track record. Look at TMC's track record. Look at my family's track record. It's not easy to be around for 152 years. We're one of the only ranches left around here that's family owned that hasn't gone into a conservation easement. And we chose not to do that because we didn't want to put restrictions on our kids in case something happened that we couldn't foresee. I'm not Nostradamus. I don't know what's going to happen in 50 years from now. So if I say in a contract that I can only build a house over here and I can only do these certain things on my land, how's that going to affect my kids if they're just trying to put food on the table, or if they have to stock up steel like my grandfather did during the Great Depression? Look into this deeper and look into TMC's record and start to question if the leaders of these groups are unwilling to dialogue with me on any of those kinds of issues and essentially just ignore what I say, then what does that say about their willingness to actually learn and grow? Is it that I'm wrong and that I'm actually doing something that's going to hurt this environment? Or is it that they're just trying to steer the narrative so that even though they have a very weak argument, it seems like it has some substance behind it?
The claims that are being made are a mixture of misinformation and concerns for there being potential harm.
Yeah.
Would you say that those GCA meetings were open to you? Were you invited?
Yes, I was invited, and I did have the opportunity to talk, but they weren't willing to hear what I was saying. I would say, well, look at TMC's track record and their wells. Are there any examples? And they wouldn't respond. And then 10 minutes later, they'd be circled back around to everyone's wells being polluted. They actually told me they were hypocrites, and I mistakenly audio recorded it, and then I got the threat to get sued. So I was threatened when I would dialogue with them, whether it be on social media or I'd see them in person. They really pushed to try to get a conservation easement going. I think there's some great options out there for people. I didn't want to put that kind of restriction on my children since my parents did so much to give me what I have now, and I want to pass that on to my kids. They're not interested in hearing what I'm saying.
They have fears and concerns that you met with facts and data, and they are not able to put that together.
That's because of the weakness of the argument. Because if you really look at mining, getting gravel out, which is a valuable resource we can use all over the valley. All of us live on gravel roads, gravel structures, aggregate everywhere. It's a valuable resource. But not only that, what is it going to become? Once it's done being a gravel pit generationally, we're thinking 20 years. If this can become something that actually really benefits the community, benefits the property, makes the river more healthy, the water table is better, and add an aesthetic that's pleasing to the area and bring in a bunch of trees. In 100 years, we have the reclamation into something that's really special. Maybe it could include something like a park for the community or people on 191 that want to stop. Maybe there could be a little spot for RVs to park, something that's only going to enhance what we have. We know and love this land more than anybody. This is part of who we are. We love it. We're not another developer that's coming in, snatching this thing up, and then turning it into a million condos. We have so much vested in making this better for future generations, and we know the lay of the land. We know where the sun comes up during certain times of year. We know how warm the ground gets in certain areas. We know which slopes are south-facing. We know where the water goes. So over time, as a rancher, you learn those things and you become intimate with the land, and we just want to make it better.
How would you describe your ultimate vision for what's possible?
I know it's not going to look like what I have envisioned. I know it's going to be better. I know the ride to get there is going to be harder than what I can anticipate at times and easier at others. I know it's going to be a struggle sometimes. My ultimate vision is my great-great-grandchildren being like I am today, which is looking at a part of a corral, let's say, where an old cedar post was poured into concrete, and it's still there. And being able to say, wow, Grandpa, that is incredible. What a forward-thinking thing to do for us. I want that to be what my great-great-grandchildren could say. That they'll be able to say, look at what they did. Look at how hard they worked. What an inspiration for us. And look how much better this is for us today. Other than that, I want the community to really enjoy it. I love that there's the aspect of supporting the community by working with TMC. They have a bond with the state. They're going to be mining in sections, and for each half, the bond is somewhere around $650,000. Once TMC completes, we'll have a lot of reclaiming to be doing to make it better, to preserve the ranch for our family, and to not put my talents and bury them in the ground. God's given me this opportunity. I want to make the most of it. Something that will be seen and known and cherished for generations to come.
Thanks for letting me put you on the spot.
I really do appreciate people taking the time to think through some of these issues and dig a little deeper. It's so meaningful that people are producing that kind of content, and good on you.
Camera roll.
Audio rolls. Can you do me a favor? Can you just give me a clap just at the camera? Yep, perfect. That's it. Just one clap.
Okay, let me restart that.
All right.
It's getting more and more mechanical.
Okay, we're rolling now, so rolling.
What are some of the challenges that What are some of the challenges you notice the most that are really ongoing?
I cannot even say a sentence.
There's your blooper.